You are losing power every time you open your mouth too fast. Every excuse, every explanation, every emotional reaction, it's costing you respect, leverage, and control. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. When you say nothing, you force the world to reveal itself. You force people to show their intentions. You force outcomes to come to you. This audiobook will teach you how to stop bleeding power through words and start winning through controlled silence. Most people are addicted to explaining. They explain why they are late. They explain why they made a decision. They explain why they feel the way they feel. They explain because they are afraid of being judged. And every time they do it, they lose power. You have a choice. You can speak to move forward, or you can speak to feel safe. That's the key. When you explain yourself, you are not communicating, you are begging for acceptance. You are saying, please understand me, please approve of me, please don't reject me. You don't need their permission, you don't need their approval. Strong people don't explain, they act, they decide, they move. Weak people explain, they justify, they defend, they leak confidence through words. It's not about being misunderstood, it's about being undisciplined. That's the key. Look at your own life. How many times did you overtalk today? How many times did you try to soften your truth so others would feel comfortable? How many times did you say more than was required? Every extra word was fear. You have a choice. You can keep talking, or you can keep your power. The world does not reward the loudest. It rewards the most grounded, the most certain, the most controlled. And control is quiet. When you speak too much, you tell people you are unsure. When you over-explain, you signal weakness. When you justify, you lower your value. That's the key. Think about the workplace. 2 employees, same position, same skills. One constantly explains, I just wanted to make sure, I hope that's okay, I was thinking that maybe. The other gives short, clear answers, direct, calm, no emotional padding. Guess who gets promoted? The quiet one. Because silence communicates confidence, short answers communicate certainty, no explanations communicate authority. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need discipline. It's not about being rude. It's about being solid. People respect those who don't wobble. People trust those who don't fidget with words. When you explain, you are trying to control their opinion. When you stay silent, you control yourself. That's the key. Here's what you must start doing. When someone questions your decision, stop defending it. When someone disagrees with you, stop arguing. When someone doesn't like your choice, let them sit in it. You have a choice. You can fight for their understanding, or you can stand in your decision. Strong people stand. Weak people scramble. Silence is standing. Say this in your mind every time you feel the urge to explain. I don't need their permission. I don't need their approval. I made my choice. That's the key. Let's go deeper. Why do people explain? Because they want to be liked, because they want to avoid conflict, because they want reassurance. But leaders don't chase comfort, they create results. And results don't require explanations, they require action. It's not about emotions, it's about discipline. Every time you open your mouth to justify, you are training yourself to be small. Every time you stay silent, you are training yourself to be solid. That's the key. Now think about arguments. When someone attacks you, your instinct is to defend, to list reasons, to tell your side. But defense is weakness. The calm person always wins. The quiet person always controls the frame. When you don't explain, you force the other person to deal with their own emotions. You don't absorb them. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need control.
and control is not loud. Here is a simple rule. If your words do not improve your position, don't speak. If your words do not move you forward, stay quiet. If your words are only trying to reduce discomfort, stop. That's the key. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Silence makes people think. Silence creates pressure. Silence forces respect. When you explain, you relieve the pressure. When you stay quiet, you increase it. And pressure creates leverage. You have a choice: relieve pressure with words or build leverage with silence. Now apply this to your relationships. How many times have you apologized for who you are? How many times have you over-explained your boundaries? How many times have you begged someone to understand? Stop. Boundaries do not require explanations. No is a complete sentence. Your decision is enough. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need self-respect. And self-respect is quiet. It's not about being cold. It's about being firm. A calm no is more powerful than a long emotional speech. That's the key. Let's talk about confidence. Confidence is not saying the right thing. Confidence is not filling the silence. Confidence is being comfortable when nothing is said. When you sit in silence without flinching, people feel it. They sense your stability. They feel your authority. When you rush to explain, you break that spell. You have a choice: hold the silence or destroy it. Now here's the discipline. For the next 7 days, speak 30% less. Pause before you answer. Remove unnecessary words. No just, no I was thinking, no emotional padding. Short, clear, done. That's the key. Watch what happens. People will listen more. They will interrupt you less. They will take you more seriously. Because silence trains others how to treat you. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need boundaries. Silence is a boundary. Every time you resist the urge to explain, you grow stronger. Every time you choose quiet over chaos, you become more grounded. It's not about being misunderstood. It's about being unmovable. That's the key. This chapter is your foundation. If you cannot stop explaining yourself, you will never control your life. You will always be reacting, always defending, always chasing validation. But when you stop explaining, something changes. You stop leaking power. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop asking for permission. And that's where strength begins. You have a choice: explain and stay small, or stay silent and grow. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need discipline. You mastered the first weapon of power: silence instead of explanation. Now let's move to what silence does to other people.
Silence is not empty. Silence is pressure. When you stop filling the space, people feel it. When you stop talking, the room changes. When you go quiet, others become uncomfortable. That's the key. Most people cannot handle silence. They rush to fill it. They ramble, they explain, they expose themselves. And the person who stays quiet gains control. You have a choice: talk for comfort or stay silent for power. Every conversation is a power exchange. Every pause shifts the balance. Every quiet moment forces the other person to show their hand. That's the key. Look at negotiations. The amateur speaks first. The professional waits. The amateur rushes to justify. The professional lets the other side feel the tension. Silence makes people nervous. Nervous people reveal more. Revealed information creates leverage. That's how power works. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need patience. It's not about being awkward. It's about being disciplined. When someone makes an offer, don't react. Don't smile. Don't frown. Don't speak. Pause. Let the silence sit. Watch how quickly they start improving the deal. Watch how fast they start explaining. Watch how they try to relieve their own discomfort. That's the key.
Silence forces respect because it forces others to work. You do nothing, they do everything. You have a choice, chase or be chased. Silence makes you the one being chased. Now look at social situations. When you talk too much, you become noise. When you stay quiet, you become presence. People lean toward what they don't fully understand. They ignore what's always available. That's the key. The loud person entertains, the quiet person commands. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need presence. Presence is felt, not spoken. When you enter a room and stay calm and silent, people notice. They wonder who you are. They feel your gravity. When you enter a room and talk non-stop, you disappear into the background. It's not about charisma. It's about discipline. Here is what you must do. In your next conversation, speak half as much. When someone asks you a question, answer it, then stop. No extra explanations, no nervous laughter, no filler words. Short, clean, done. That's the key. Let the silence do the work. If they want more, they will ask. If they don't, you already said enough. You have a choice. Push for attention or let attention come to you. Now let's talk about authority. People follow those who are comfortable with stillness. Leaders don't rush, they pause. A pause says, I am not desperate. A pause says, I am in control. A pause says, I don't need to prove anything. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need composure. That's the key. When someone challenges you, don't jump in. When someone disagrees, don't react. When someone tests you, don't rush. Let the silence make them uncomfortable. Because the first person who breaks is the weaker one. It's not about winning arguments, it's about winning positioning. Silence positions you above the noise. You have a choice, react or observe. The observer always has the advantage. Now apply this at work. When your boss asks a question, answer it, then stop. When a colleague tries to pull you into drama, say nothing. Let them talk. When someone criticizes you, pause, look at them, let the silence stretch. They will start backing down. They will soften their tone. They will feel your control. That's the key. Silence forces respect because it shows emotional strength. It shows you are not controlled by other people's words. It shows you don't need to be validated. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need self-command. Self-command is silent. Here is a rule. If someone is emotional, you become calm. If someone is loud, you become quiet. If someone is chaotic, you become still. Opposites create dominance. That's the key. Silence is not weakness. Silence is restraint, and restraint is power. Weak people say everything they feel. Strong people choose what to reveal. It's not about being cold. It's about being controlled. Now look at relationships. The one who speaks less controls the pace. The one who reacts less controls the frame. The one who waits has the leverage. You have a choice. Overtext or wait. Over-explain or stay quiet. Chase or be valued. Silence makes you valuable. That's the key. When you don't rush to reply, you raise your status. When you don't jump to explain, you create mystery. When you don't fill every gap, you force others to lean in. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need patience. Patience is silent. Now let's get practical. For the next week, practice the pause. Every time you want to speak, count to 3, then decide if the words are necessary. Most of the time, they won't be. That's the key. Let people talk themselves into revealing their intentions. Let people show you their insecurity. Let people prove who they are. Silence gives you information. Words give away position. You have a choice. Give information or collect it. The powerful collect. As you master silence, something will shift. People will start respecting you. They will take your words more seriously. They will feel your presence. Not because you said more, because you said less. That's the key. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need stillness. Stillness creates authority. Authority creates respect. Respect creates influence. You have now learned how silence changes the room. Now it's time to learn how silence protects you.
Every emotional sentence you speak is a leak of power, a leak of control, a leak of leverage. You think you are expressing yourself. You are actually exposing yourself. That's the key. When you talk from emotion, you hand other people a map of your weaknesses. You tell them what hurts you. You tell them what triggers you. You tell them what controls you, and they will use it. You have a choice. Speak from emotion or stay silent from strength. Silence blocks manipulation. It's not about feelings, it's about discipline. Look at every argument you've ever lost. You didn't lose because you were wrong. You lost because you became emotional. The moment your voice rises, your power drops. The moment you start explaining how you feel, you give the other person control. That's the key. When two people argue, the calmer one always wins. Not because they are right, because they are in control. If only one person is talking, the argument dies. Silence suffocates drama. Silence starves conflict. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need emotional discipline. It's not about being cold. It's about being unmovable. Most people think they are being honest when they speak emotionally. They are actually being predictable. And predictable people are easy to manipulate. When someone knows what makes you angry, they can provoke you. When someone knows what makes you insecure, they can control you. When someone knows what makes you afraid, they own you. That's the key. Silence hides your triggers. Silence protects your inner world. Silence makes you unreadable. And unreadable people are powerful. You have a choice. Reveal everything or protect your leverage. Now look at real life. Think about the last time someone pushed your buttons. They said something small. You reacted big. They won. Because the moment you reacted, they controlled the situation. It's not about who started it. It's about who stayed calm. That's the key. When you feel the emotional surge, that is your moment of choice. You can speak or you can pause. One makes you weak, the other makes you dangerous. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need control. Control is not loud. Control is quiet. Here is what you must practice. When you feel triggered, say nothing, not one word. Let the silence stretch. Your mind will scream to speak. Your ego will beg to defend. Ignore it. That's the key. Emotions rise and fall like waves. If you don't ride them with words, they pass. If you speak, you give them life. If you stay silent, they die. It's not about feelings, it's about discipline. Now let's talk about manipulation. Manipulators need your reactions. They poke you, they provoke you, they wait for the emotional response. When you give them silence, you starve them. They lose interest, they lose power, they lose control. That's the key. Silence is a shield. You have a choice. Feed the fire or let it burn out. Most people keep fires alive with words. Strong people extinguish them with silence. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need boundaries. Silence is the strongest boundary there is. Now apply this in relationships. When someone criticizes you, don't defend. When someone accuses you, don't explain. When someone attacks you, don't react. Let them talk. Watch how quickly they start exposing their insecurity. Watch how their anger collapses without resistance. That's the key. Emotional people cannot stand emotional silence. They need feedback. They need reaction. Deny it to them.
It's not about being passive, it's about being strategic. Silence is strategy. Here is a simple rule. If someone is trying to pull you into emotion, go quiet. If someone is trying to provoke you, pause. If someone is trying to control you, do nothing. You have a choice. Be reactive or be untouchable. Now, think about how many times you ruined your own position by talking. You said too much. You explained how you felt. You revealed what hurt you, and the other person used it later. That's the key. Silence keeps your cards hidden. Words put them on the table. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need leverage. Leverage comes from what you don't say. Now let's get practical. For the next week, you will not speak when emotional. If you feel angry, stay quiet. If you feel hurt, stay quiet. If you feel defensive, stay quiet. Write it down later. Process it later, but don't give it away in the moment. That's the key. You are not suppressing emotions, you are controlling them. It's not about denying feelings, it's about disciplining them. Strong people feel deeply, they just don't bleed publicly. Silence stops the bleeding. You have a choice. Bleed in front of everyone or heal in private. Now, understand this. Every time you stay silent instead of reacting, you grow stronger. Every time you hold your tongue, you increase your self-respect. Every time you don't give away your emotions, you gain power. That's the key. People will try to get inside your head. They will try to push you. They will try to make you speak. Let them fail. Your calm will break them. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need discipline. You've learned how silence blocks manipulation. Now it's time to use silence to expose others.
When you stop talking, something powerful happens. The masks come off. People cannot hide in silence. They need noise to cover their fear. They need words to protect their image. They need stories to control how you see them. Silence takes all of that away. That's the key. When you say nothing, people reveal who they are, their insecurity, their arrogance, their dishonesty, their intentions. You don't need to expose them. Silence will. You have a choice. Talk and give them something to hide behind, or stay quiet and let them stand naked in their truth. Most people are terrified of being seen, so they fill the space. They explain, they justify, they lie. That's how you know. Insecure people cannot tolerate silence. They rush to prove themselves. They rush to defend themselves. They rush to impress. Strong people don't. That's the key. Think about every conversation you've ever had with a liar. They talked too much. They over-explained. They added unnecessary details. Because silence would have exposed them. When you stay quiet, they panic. They start talking faster. They start contradicting themselves. They start revealing the truth. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need patience. Patience is silent. It's not about being clever. It's about being disciplined. Silence is an interrogation tool. Ask a question, then stop talking. Let the silence stretch. Watch what happens. They will start adding more. They will start correcting themselves. They will start leaking information. That's the key. People always tell on themselves when you give them enough space. Now look at manipulation. Manipulators rely on distraction. They talk, they redirect, they overwhelm. Silence cuts through that. When you don't follow their lead, they get uncomfortable. When you don't respond, they lose control. And when they lose control, the truth comes out. You don't need to expose them. Silence will. You have a choice. Chase their words or let their words chase you. Let them do the work.
Now think about relationships. When someone is hiding something, they can't handle quiet. They will overtext, they will overexplain, they will overshare. That's the key. The more someone talks without being asked, the more they are trying to manage your perception. Silence removes that ability. When you don't react, they show you their real face. It's not about suspicion, it's about observation. You don't need their permission, you don't need their approval. You need clarity. Clarity comes from listening. Here is the discipline. Stop interrupting, stop filling gaps, stop rescuing conversations. Let people speak. Let them run out of things to say. That's when the truth appears. You have a choice. Control the conversation or control the outcome. The outcome is what matters. Silence gives you the outcome. Now apply this at work. When someone gives you an excuse, say nothing. Just look at them. Wait. They will keep talking. They will reveal what really happened. They will show you their mindset. That's the key. When someone is confident, they don't need to talk. When someone is weak, they need noise. Silence separates the two. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need information. Silence collects information. Every time you stay quiet, you gather data. Every time you speak, you give it away. You have a choice, reveal or observe. The observer always wins. Now understand this. People tell you exactly who they are, not with what they say, but with how they handle silence. The anxious will fidget, the dishonest will talk, the insecure will overcompensate, the strong will sit calmly. That's the key. You don't need to call people out. You don't need to confront. You don't need to accuse. Silence does it for you. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need awareness. Now let's get practical. In your next important conversation, say less. Ask one question, then wait. Don't rescue the silence. Let it stretch. Watch how much people reveal. That's the key. This is how you avoid being lied to. This is how you see through manipulation. This is how you choose the right people, not by talking, by listening. It's not about being suspicious. It's about being disciplined. Most people talk themselves into trusting the wrong person. Strong people listen themselves into clarity. You have a choice. Trust words or watch behavior. Silence lets you see behavior. Now understand this. When you stop talking, you stop giving people the ability to control the story. You take back the frame. You take back the power. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need truth. And truth lives in silence. You have now learned how silence reveals others. Now it's time to learn how silence increases your value.
Talking too much makes you cheap. Silence raises your value. That is not a metaphor, that is reality. The more you talk, the more you lower your position. The more you explain, the more you give away leverage. The more you chase, the less you are chosen. That's the key. Every negotiation is a balance of desire. Who wants it more loses. Who waits wins. You have a choice. Chase or be chosen. Silence makes you the one being chosen. Look at how amateurs negotiate. They rush, they overtalk, they explain why they need the deal. I really want this. I hope we can make this work. I'm flexible. Every one of those sentences makes them weaker. The professional waits. They let the other side speak. They let the other side reveal their urgency. They let the other side expose their limits. That's the key. In any deal, the first person to feel uncomfortable loses. Silence creates discomfort. Discomfort creates mistakes. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need patience. Patience is silent. Now think about buying something. The seller talks. They pitch. They push. They fill the air. You say nothing. You look. You pause. You wait. What happens? The price drops. The terms improve. The seller starts negotiating with themselves.
That's the key. Silence forces the other side to move. You have a choice. Push for the deal or let the deal come to you. The one who pushes reveals need. The one who waits shows strength. It's not about being rude, it's about being disciplined. Now apply this to every deal in your life: money, time, relationships, opportunities. The one who speaks less gets more. The one who waits wins. Now here is the discipline. When someone makes you an offer, do not respond immediately. Pause, even if you love it, especially if you love it. That's the key. Your pause tells them you have options. Your silence tells them you are not desperate, and desperation is expensive. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need leverage. Leverage comes from silence. Now understand this. People negotiate against themselves when you let them. They start improving terms. They start justifying their price. They start giving away value. You do nothing. You just wait. That's the key. Silence is not passive. It is aggressive patience. It's not about being slow. It's about being strategic. Now, let's get practical. In your next negotiation, follow this rule. Whoever speaks first after an offer loses. If they make an offer, you pause. If they make a demand, you pause. If they ask what you think, you pause. Let the silence force them to talk. You have a choice. Fill the gap or let them. Let them. That's the key. You will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will want to speak. Your ego will want to react. Ignore it. That discomfort is leverage forming. Now think about how many deals you've lost by talking too much. You revealed your budget. You revealed your need. You revealed your timeline. And the other side used it. Silence would have protected you. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need information. Silence collects information. Words give it away. Now understand this. The person who controls the pace controls the deal. Silence slows the pace. Slow pace gives you power. That's the key. When you speak quickly, you give up control. When you wait, you take it. You have a choice: rush or rule. Silence lets you rule. As you master this, your life will change. You will pay less. You will get more. You will be respected. Not because you argued better, but because you waited better. That's the key. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need discipline. You've learned how silence wins negotiations. Now it's time to learn when not to explain yourself at all.
Strong people do not argue their life choices. They execute. Weak people explain. They justify. They try to convince. That's the key. Every time you defend a decision, you are telling the world you are unsure. Every time you argue your path, you are giving other people authority over it. You have a choice: stand in your decision or negotiate it away. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You made the choice. It's not about being understood. It's about being effective. Look at successful people. They don't explain why they wake up early. They don't defend why they work harder. They don't justify their ambition. They show results. Results speak louder than words. That's the key. When someone questions your choices, your instinct is to talk, to list reasons, to give context. Stop. Silence is stronger than argument. If your decision is solid, it does not need defense. If it is weak, no explanation will save it. You have a choice: defend or deliver. Delivering is power. Now think about your own life. How many times have you argued your goals to people who don't live your life? How many times have you explained yourself to people who don't pay your bills? How many times have you tried to win approval instead of winning results? That's the key. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need momentum. Momentum comes from action, not words. When you defend your decisions, you slow down. You get pulled into debates. You get distracted by opinions. Silence keeps you moving. It's not about being rude. It's about being disciplined. Here's the rule. If someone questions your choice, you give a short answer. Then you stop. I decided. That's what I'm doing. End of discussion. That's the key. No emotional padding, no justification, no begging to be understood. You have a choice. Explain or proceed. Proceeding wins. Now look at how people try to control you. They question your decisions, they doubt your plans, they poke at your confidence. If you defend, they gain power. If you stay silent, they lose it. Silence says, I don't owe you an explanation. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need boundaries. Boundaries are quiet. Now apply this at work. When you make a decision, make it. When someone challenges it, don't argue. Let your results speak. People respect outcomes, not arguments. That's the key. The one who is always explaining looks uncertain. The one who moves looks confident. Confidence creates trust. Now apply this to relationships. You don't need to justify your standards. You don't need to defend your boundaries. You don't need to explain why you walk away. You walk. That's it. It's not about being understood. It's about being effective. If someone cannot respect your choices, they don't get access to you. That's the key. Now understand this. Defending your decisions invites debate. Debate invites doubt. Doubt kills momentum. Silence shuts it all down. You have a choice. Argue your life or live it. Now, here is the discipline. For the next week, stop explaining yourself. If someone asks why, give a short answer, then stop talking. Let them deal with it. That's the key. You will feel uncomfortable. Your ego will want to justify. Ignore it. That discomfort is strength growing. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need self-trust. Self-trust is silent. Every time you resist the urge to defend, you become more grounded. Every time you stand without explaining, you become more respected. People don't follow words. They follow certainty. Silence communicates certainty. Now remember this. Results are your argument. Action is your explanation. Progress is your proof. Everything else is noise. That's the key. You have now learned how to stop defending your decisions. Now it's time to learn how silence gives you psychological dominance.
Calm, quiet people feel dangerous, not because they are aggressive, but because they cannot be read. Uncertainty creates power. Stillness creates pressure. Silence creates dominance. That's the key. When people don't know what you're thinking, they project. When they can't predict you, they hesitate. When they can't read you, they respect you. You have a choice. Reveal yourself or remain unexposed. Silence keeps you unexposed. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You don't need to prove anything. Look at real leaders. They don't speak much. They don't rush. They don't fill the room with noise. They wait. They watch. They decide. And when they speak, everyone listens. That's the key. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. The quietest one often is. Why? Because silence makes people lean in. Noise makes people tune out. It's not about confidence. It's about discipline. When you talk too much, you become predictable. When you stay quiet, you become a mystery. Mystery creates authority. You have a choice. Be obvious or be intimidatingly unknown. Now think about how people try to test you. They say something to get a reaction. They wait for your face to change. They listen for emotional cues. If you react, they gain information. If you stay still, they get nothing. That's the key. Silence protects your psychological position. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need composure. Composure is silent. Now apply this at work. When a leader speaks less, people pay more attention. When a leader pauses, the room goes quiet. When a leader doesn't react, the team feels stability. That's why they are obeyed, not because they shout, but because they don't. You don't need to prove anything. Power doesn't explain, it waits. Now look at how weak people behave. They fill every gap. They laugh nervously. They talk when they are uncomfortable. That's how you know. Strong people are comfortable in silence. They don't need to perform. That's the key. Silence is a psychological weapon. It makes others question themselves. It makes them fill the space. It makes them reveal more than they should. You have a choice. Control the conversation, or let silence control it for you. Let silence do the work. Now let's get practical. The next time you are challenged, do not respond immediately. Pause. Look at the person. Let the silence stretch. They will start to explain themselves. They will soften their tone. They will back down. That's the key. Silence flips the power dynamic. It's not about being rude. It's about being centered. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need composure. Composure is silent. Now understand this. When you stay calm under pressure, you become the reference point. Others take cues from you. If you are still, they become still. That's leadership. Leadership is emotional dominance, and emotional dominance is silent. Now look at social dynamics. The person who reacts is controlled. The person who stays neutral controls. Silence keeps you neutral. Neutrality gives you power. You have a choice. Be reactive or be untouchable. Now think about how often you talk yourself into weakness. You explain, you justify, you overshare, and people use it. Silence stops that. It's not about being cold, it's about being protected. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need boundaries. Silence is the strongest boundary. Now here is your discipline. In every interaction, say less, watch more, react slower. That's the key. Let people show their cards. Let them reveal their emotions. You stay still. Stillness creates dominance. Now feel this. When you walk into a room and don't rush to speak, the energy shifts. When you listen more than you talk, people feel you. When you don't explain, people respect you. That's the key. You don't need to prove anything. You are enough in silence. You have now learned how silence creates psychological dominance. Now it's time to learn how absence becomes your next weapon.
Sometimes silence is not staying quiet. Sometimes silence is walking away. And walking away is power. When you remove your presence, you remove your energy. When you remove your energy, people feel the loss. When they feel the loss, they understand your value. That's the key. Most people stay where they are not respected. They keep showing up. They keep explaining. They keep tolerating. And they wonder why no one values them. You have a choice. Stay and be taken for granted, or leave and be felt. Your presence is valuable. Don't give it cheaply. People respect what they fear losing. They ignore what is always available. That's the key. Look at relationships. When you always show up, they stop trying. When you always respond, they stop appreciating. When you always forgive, they stop respecting. But when you pull back, something changes. They notice. They wonder. They feel the gap. Silence through absence creates awareness. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need standards. Standards are enforced by absence. It's not about playing games. It's about self-respect. If someone disrespects you, don't argue. Don't explain. Leave. That's the key. Your absence will say more than any speech. Now think about work. If you are always available, people waste you. If you are always saying yes, they exploit you. If you never leave, they never value you. But when you set boundaries and step back, they feel it. They adjust. They respect. You have a choice: overgive or be valued. Silence through distance creates value. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need self-worth. Self-worth walks away from disrespect. Now understand this. When you stay where you are not appreciated, you train people to mistreat you. When you leave, you teach them your worth. That's the key. Letting your absence speak is not weakness. It is controlled withdrawal. It's not about being dramatic. It's about being disciplined. Here is the rule. If someone keeps crossing your boundaries, remove access. If someone keeps disrespecting your time, reduce availability. If someone keeps draining you, walk away. Your presence is valuable. Don't give it cheaply. Now think about how many times you stayed too long. You tolerated disrespect. You accepted crumbs. You begged for effort. And your value dropped. Silence through absence would have protected you. You have a choice: stay and suffer, or step back and be respected. Now, let's get practical. Pick one relationship where you are overgiving. Stop initiating, stop chasing, stop explaining. Let the silence do the work. That's the key. You will see who values you. You will see who reaches out. You will see who cares. And you will finally know the truth. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need clarity. Clarity comes from absence. Now understand this. People don't miss you when you are always there. They miss you when you are gone. Silence creates space. Space creates reflection. Reflection creates respect. That's the key. This applies to everything: business, friendships, family, love. Your presence is your currency. Spend it wisely. It's not about being cold. It's about being selective. You have a choice: be everywhere or be valuable. The rare is respected. The common is ignored. Silence through absence makes you rare. Now here is your discipline. For the next week, stop chasing. Let people come to you. Let silence reveal who values you. That's the key. You will feel uncomfortable. Your ego will want to reach out. Don't. That discomfort is self-respect growing. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need boundaries. Boundaries are enforced by absence. Now you have learned how silence through distance creates value. Now it's time to learn how silence gives you emotional control.
The strongest people don't react. They observe. Weak people explode. Strong people stay still. That's the key. Every emotional reaction you give away is a piece of control you lose. Every pause you hold is power you gain. You have a choice: react or rule. The calm person always wins the argument, not because they are right, because they are in control. When someone gets emotional, their thinking collapses. When you stay calm, your clarity sharpens. That's the key. Look at any conflict. One person raises their voice. One person stays quiet. Who do you trust? The quiet one. Who looks strong? The calm one. Who wins? The one who didn't lose control. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need mastery. Mastery is emotional discipline. It's not about not feeling. It's about not bleeding. Most people think expressing emotions makes them authentic. It actually makes them predictable.
Predictable people are easy to manipulate. When someone knows what makes you angry, they can push you. When someone knows what makes you sad, they can weaken you. When someone knows what makes you defensive, they can control you. That's the key. Silence hides your triggers. Stillness protects your leverage. You have a choice: show everything or reveal nothing. The one who reveals nothing holds the power. Now think about your past. How many times did you say something you regretted because you reacted? How many relationships were damaged because you spoke in anger? How many opportunities were lost because you couldn't stay calm? That's the key. You don't lose when you stay silent. You lose when you speak emotionally. Now here is the discipline. When you feel an emotional surge, do nothing. No text, no reply, no explanation. Wait. Let the wave pass. Emotions are temporary. Words are permanent. You have a choice: react or rule. Ruling means waiting. Now look at how arguments die. When one person stops responding, the fight collapses. When one person stays calm, the drama starves. That's the key. Silence is emotional starvation. Drama cannot survive without reactions. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need boundaries. Boundaries are enforced by silence. Now apply this in relationships. When someone tries to provoke you, pause. When someone tries to guilt you, pause. When someone tries to drag you into chaos, pause. Let them talk. Let them tire themselves out. You stay calm. That's the key. The calm person always wins. Not because they said more, but because they said less. Now understand this. Your emotions are not your enemy. Your lack of control is. It's not about feelings, it's about discipline. Feel deeply. Respond strategically. You have a choice. Let emotions drive or let discipline lead. Now let's get practical. For the next week, practice emotional fasting. No emotional responses, only intentional ones. If something triggers you, step away. Breathe. Wait. That's the key. You will notice something powerful. People will stop trying to manipulate you. They will stop provoking you. They will stop pushing. Because they get nothing back. Silence makes you untouchable. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need control. Control is calm. Now remember this. Every time you don't react, you win. Every time you stay quiet, you rise. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you gain power. That's the key. You have now mastered emotional control. Now it's time to see how silence destroys drama.
Drama is a parasite. It feeds on reaction. It survives on attention. It grows when you respond. Silence starves it. That's the key. Most of the chaos in your life exists because you keep feeding it. You reply, you explain, you react, and drama gets stronger. You have a choice. Feed the fire or let it die. It's not about being liked. It's about being respected. Gossip, conflict, and emotional games all need your participation. Without it, they collapse. Think about gossip. Someone tells you something about someone else. They are fishing for a reaction. They want emotion. They want you to join the drama. If you respond, you become part of it. If you stay silent, it dies. That's the key. Drama cannot exist in a vacuum. It needs two people. When one stops, it ends. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need distance from nonsense. Silence creates that distance. Now look at arguments. Arguments are just drama with louder voices.
They only continue if both sides keep talking. When one person stops responding, the argument has no oxygen. It fades. That's the key. You have a choice. Keep fighting or keep your peace. Peace is power. Now understand this. People who live in drama are addicted to emotion. They need conflict. They need noise. They need chaos. Silence denies them all of it, and when you deny them, they move on. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need control over what enters your life. Silence is the gatekeeper. It's not about being cold, it's about being selective. Here is the discipline. If something does not build your life, do not engage. If someone tries to pull you into drama, do not reply. If gossip comes your way, say nothing. That's the key. Watch how fast it disappears. People stop bringing drama to those who don't react. They bring it to those who do. You train people how to treat you by how you respond. You have a choice. Reward chaos or reward calm. Now think about how much energy you have wasted on nonsense. Messages, arguments, explanations, defenses. All of it was optional. Silence would have saved you. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need focus. Drama steals focus. Silence protects it. Now apply this in your relationships. When someone complains constantly, don't engage. When someone stirs trouble, don't reply. When someone tries to drag you into conflict, pause. Let the silence speak. That's the key. You will notice something powerful. People either calm down or they leave. Both are wins. It's not about being liked. It's about being respected. Respect comes from boundaries. Silence is a boundary. Now here is your discipline. For the next week, no emotional responses to drama. No defending, no explaining, no reacting. Only silence. That's the key. You will feel lighter, clearer, stronger, because you are no longer feeding parasites. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need peace. Peace is created by silence. You have now learned how silence kills drama. Now it's time to learn how to speak only when it matters.
Every word should have a purpose, or it should not exist. Noise is weakness. Precision is power. That's the key. Most people talk because they are uncomfortable with silence. They fill space, they fill time, they fill air, and in the process, they empty their power. You have a choice. Speak with intention or speak from insecurity. Powerful people speak less but mean more. Say less, mean more. That's the key. Every word you say either moves you forward or holds you back. There is no neutral. If your words do not build, they leak. If your words do not clarify, they confuse. If your words do not advance, they expose. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need discipline. It's not about being quiet. It's about being precise. Now think about how often you talk without purpose. Small talk, complaints, explanations, emotional reactions. None of it moves you forward. It just reveals you. That's the key. Strong people choose their words like weapons. They don't swing wildly. They strike when it counts. Silence is their default. Speech is their tool. You have a choice. Talk to fill space or speak to create impact. Now look at leaders. They don't ramble. They don't over-explain. They speak clearly, then they stop. That's why people listen. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need clarity. Clarity comes from less words, not more. Now apply this to your life. Before you speak,
Ask one question. Does this move me forward? If the answer is no, stay quiet. That's the key. When someone criticizes you, do not defend. When someone gossips, do not join. When someone baits you, do not bite. Silence keeps you clean. Now think about how many problems you created with words. You said too much. You explained too much. You reacted too much. Silence would have saved you. You have a choice. Leak power or keep it. Say less, mean more. Now here is the discipline. For the next week, reduce your words by 50%. Short answers, clear statements, no emotional padding. That's the key. Watch what happens. People will listen more. They will respect you more. They will take you seriously. Because when you speak less, your words carry weight. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need impact. Impact comes from restraint. It's not about being liked. It's about being effective. Now understand this. The person who talks the most reveals the most. The person who speaks only when necessary stays protected. Protection is power. Silence is your shield. Now remember, every word is a cost. Every silence is an investment. Choose wisely. That's the key. You have now learned how to use words as tools instead of crutches. Now it's time to learn how silence controls the room.
Silence makes people lean in. Noise pushes them away. That's the key. When you are quiet, others become curious. When you are loud, they become numb. Power is not volume. Power is presence. You don't need to be loud to be heard. Most people think they have to dominate a room with words. They think more talking equals more influence. It doesn't. It equals more noise. You have a choice. Be loud and be ignored, or be quiet and be felt. In meetings, the one who speaks the least often has the most control. They listen, they observe, they choose their moment. And when they finally speak, the room goes still. That's the key. Silence creates anticipation. Anticipation creates attention. Attention creates authority. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need timing. Timing is everything. Now think about every powerful person you know. They don't rush to talk. They don't compete for airtime. They don't fight to be heard. They wait. And when they speak, it lands. That's the key. The loudest voice is often the weakest. The quietest one often holds the room. Because people sense confidence in stillness. It's not about being shy. It's about being controlled. Now apply this in your life. In group settings, say less, listen more. Watch how people react. You will notice something. They will start turning to you. They will wait for your input. They will respect your silence. Because silence signals authority. You don't need to be loud to be heard. Now here is the discipline. In every meeting, speak only once. Make it count, then stop. That's the key. People will remember what you said because you didn't bury it under noise. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need impact. Impact comes from restraint. Now think about how many times you talked yourself into being ignored. You said too much. You repeated yourself. You over-explained. And your message lost power. Silence would have sharpened it. You have a choice. Dilute your voice or sharpen it. Now understand this. Quiet people control the room because they control themselves. They don't fidget with words. They don't chase attention. They let attention come to them. That's the key. Your silence is your gravity. Now here is your challenge. In the next conversation, speak last. Listen first. Let others fill the space. Then say what matters. That's the key. You will feel your influence grow. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need presence. Presence is silent. You have now learned how silence controls the room. Now it's time to learn how calm becomes your ultimate weapon.
Emotional neutrality makes you untouchable. When you are calm, nothing can hook you. When you are still, nothing can control you. When you are steady, nothing can move you. That's the key. Angry people lose deals. Calm people win them. Because anger gives away power. Calm keeps it. You have a choice. Be reactive or be unreachable. Control yourself and you control everything. Most people think power comes from intensity. It doesn't. It comes from restraint. The person who stays calm under pressure owns the moment. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need emotional neutrality. It's not about being cold. It's about being disciplined. Now think about every time you lost control. You raised your voice. You sent the message. You said the thing you wish you hadn't. And the situation got worse. That's the key. Your emotions don't solve problems. Your calm does. Now look at business. The one who stays calm gets the better deal. The one who stays quiet hears the truth. The one who doesn't rush gets more. Calm creates leverage. You have a choice. Let emotions drive or let discipline lead. Control yourself and you control everything. Now, apply this to conflict. When someone tries to provoke you, they want a reaction. When you stay calm, they fail. They lose their grip. They lose their power. They lose their angle. That's the key. Your calm is not weakness. It is dominance. Silence plus stillness is a psychological shield. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need composure. Composure is silent. Now, here is the discipline. When something upsets you, pause. Take a breath. Say nothing. Let your nervous system settle. That's the key. Your first reaction is never your best one. Your second one is usually worse. Your third one, after calm, is powerful. Now, understand this. People try to pull you into emotion to control you. When you stay neutral, they have nothing to grab. You become slippery, untouchable. That's the key. Now think about leadership. People don't follow the loudest. They follow the calmest. Because calm feels safe, and safety creates loyalty. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need stability. Stability is silent. Now let's get practical. For the next week, practice emotional neutrality. No highs, no lows, just steady. When something good happens, don't overreact. When something bad happens, don't explode. Stay centered. That's the key. You will notice something. People will stop trying to push you. They will stop testing you. They will feel your strength because you are no longer predictable. Control yourself and you control everything. Now, remember this. Every time you stay calm, you win. Every time you don't react, you rise. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you gain power. That's the key. You have now learned how calm makes you untouchable. Now it's time to become the ultimate observer.
When you stop talking, you start seeing the truth. Noise blinds you. Silence reveals. That's the key. The quiet person always knows more, not because they are smarter, but because they are not busy performing. They are watching, they are listening, they are gathering reality instead of opinions. You have a choice. Talk and miss the truth, or stay silent and see it. When you say nothing, you gain everything. Most people are trapped inside their own voice. They are so busy explaining, defending, and reacting that they never see what is actually happening. Silence breaks that trap. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need awareness. Awareness is silent. Now think about how often you misjudged someone. You listened to their words, you believed their stories, you missed their behavior. Silence teaches you to watch behavior, and behavior never lies. That's the key. When you stop talking, you notice patterns. Who interrupts? Who dominates? Who lies? Who is insecure? They show you. You don't need to expose them. Silence will. Now apply this to life. When someone speaks, listen. When they pause, watch. When they act, remember. That's the key. The unshakable observer does not rush to judge. They collect data. They stay still. They wait for the full picture. Because decisions made from observation are strong, decisions made from emotion are weak. It's not about being detached, it's about being disciplined. Now here is your final discipline. In every situation, speak last. Let others reveal themselves. Let the truth come to you. That's the key. When you talk less, you hear more. When you hear more, you know more. When you know more, you win more. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You need clarity. Clarity is silent. Now understand this. The world is loud. People are noisy. Opinions are endless. But truth is subtle. It whispers. It waits. Silence lets you hear it. You have a choice. Drown in noise or rise through awareness. When you say nothing, you gain everything. You gain insight. You gain leverage. You gain control. You gain peace. That's the key. You are no longer reacting. You are observing. You are no longer chasing. You are choosing. This is the final form of power. The silent mind, the calm presence, the unshakable observer. And this is where your life changes. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You have your own. You have learned how to stop explaining, how to use silence to force respect, how to block manipulation, how to reveal others, how to win negotiations, how to protect your decisions, how to dominate psychologically, how to use absence, how to control emotions, how to kill drama, how to speak with purpose, how to command rooms, how to stay calm. And now you know the truth. When you say nothing, you gain everything.
This is your new standard. No more explaining, no more emotional leaks, no more giving people power through your words. You have a choice. Speak from weakness or stay silent from strength. That's the key. Every time you pause instead of reacting, you gain control. Every time you stay quiet instead of defending, you gain respect. Every time you let others talk while you observe, you gain leverage. From this moment forward, you will speak less, watch more, and move with precision. And the next time someone tries to pull you into noise, drama, or explanation, you will do the most powerful thing in the world. You will say nothing, and you will win.